Okay, this is the Hunters Hangout podcast, episode 1. We are coming to you from Cranesville, West Virginia, which I find it slightly ironic that we're recording episode 1 from Cranesville, West Virginia, because the population of Cranesville, West Virginia is, 40, 50 people? What do you think, Rod? How many people live in Cranesville? 47 people, our local Cranesville, West Virginia resident says. 47 people, and I would imagine amongst those 47 people, there's probably nobody that even knows what a podcast is. And I'm not saying that to downgrade anyone in Cranesville, because these are my people. I love them. I mean, we come here all the time. I've grown up here. Love it. But we're recording our first episode from Cranesville, West Virginia. We're here on a turkey hunt with, I'm Cory Dukehart. I'm here with all of my buddies, trying to chase down turkey. We're having a hard time thus far, but I'm here with my good friend Dusty Evans, his father Dirty Don Evans, my buddy Steve Strevig, Rod Lane, who is our Cranesville, West Virginia resident, and my other buddy Tim Molyneux, who isn't even a hunter, that is in on the first Hunters Hangout podcast, so we'll get a weird perspective on things, apparently. But we're here turkey hunting, but we're not here to talk about turkey hunting. We decided that the first episode of the Hunters Hangout podcast, we're going to talk about our first deer. Everybody remembers their first deer. Everybody has a great first deer story. So I'll kick things off. I killed my first deer. I'm 30 years old right now, but I killed my first deer in 1996 in Greenridge State Forest on Maryland's youth rifle season, which typically comes in a week, 2 weeks before.
2 weeks, right?
2 weeks before Maryland's rifle season, which is always the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So it was early November, and it actually kind of comes in at a better time than rifle season does.
Way better than a rut.
Yeah, you get the rut. You get the rut better. And we were there hunting. It was me. We're going to get 3 perspectives on this deer hunt here, because I was hunting with my father, who's not here at the moment. But Dusty, who is here sitting with us, was there hunting with the youth hunt, and his father, Dirty Don, was there guiding him. And if it wasn't for Dusty sleeping, my first deer story would be a whole hell of a lot different.
It would be my first deer story.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Bingo. It would be Dusty's first deer story if Dusty was awake, but,
it's hard for his father to wake him up when the deer is 25 yards from him.
Exactly.
And it was a 4-point buck, and 2 does run up to us, and I'm trying to be very quiet and tell Dusty, get up, Dusty, there's deer.
Exactly.
Yeah, none of that ever happened because I don't remember any of it.
Yeah,
because you was asleep.
Dusty slept through my first deer story, but it would have been his. It was fixing to be his first deer story if things would have played out differently. But we were in Greenridge State Forest for the 1-day early rifle season for youth hunt in 1996. We hunted that morning. To be honest with you, I don't recall any details from that morning whatsoever, I guess because nothing significant ever happened. But the details of that afternoon and that evening, I remember vividly. Greenridge State Forest in Maryland is a very mountainous and lots of ridges and valleys.
4,600 acres.
Right, yeah, exactly. It's huge hunk of woods. 46,000 acres. 1,000 acres, yeah, okay. 46,000 acres. And this little buck, a little fork-horn buck, was taken off chasing these 2 does, a doe and a yearling, across this ridge. And we saw the doe, we saw the buck chasing them. They went down the ridge, up past us, a few hundred yards away. It was big, wide open woods, hardwoods that we could see well in. And they were running directly in the direction where Don and Dusty were set up. And my dad at the time reached in his pocket, and to this day, if he was here, he would be vouching for his deer hunting expertise, the way this all played out. it could have just been a coincidence, but what he did work. I mean, he reached in his pocket, he grabbed his grunt tube, and he grunted at twice, as these deer were running by. And his opinion is, the doe came running back this way because she heard the grunts, thinking that it'd be another buck that would get this buck off of her ass. You know what I mean? And at the time, I'm thinking, yeah, Dad's the best deer hunter in the world. That worked exactly the way it was supposed to work, But actually, whether or not that was the case and that was why all those things happened, who knows? But it did work. The doe turned her course right when he hit the grunt tube and came running back our direction. And we were up against a tree. Little did I know, I never knew any until after the fact that you guys were even that close to it. Not close, but in that general area. I mean, we were in a huge hunk of woods. This was well before the time of us using walkie-talkies to say, hey, I'm here, hey, I'm there. But you were probably, like you said, 150 yards, 200 yards away. But we were hunting a different ridge, but the deer kind of split both of us, ran right past you guys, came back to us, and I'm up against this tree, and this doe is hauling butt right towards us with the buck right behind her. And I remember thinking to myself, she's going to run us over. She's going to run right over top of me. You know what I mean? And I kept telling my dad, because my dad was behind me, and I had his 30-30 Marlin up against the tree, and I'm shaking like a leaf, and I kept saying, Dad, she's going to run us over. He's like, she'll stop. He wasn't worried. I was worried. But she did stop. About 30 yards out, she stopped, and she cut and went back down the hill. Well, the buck tried to cut her off. So he cut us short by about 50 yards. And then he stopped broadside, and I let it eat. And down the hill he went. I mean, anybody that's hunted mountains or if you ever hunted Greenridge State Forest, you know that they all go down the hill.
You have to take them from the bottom up. Right. That's a fact.
Right. So down the hill they went. And, I didn't know at the time whether I hit the deer or not. I thought I did. Dad said, you got him. Sure enough, we went over. And as we were looking for blood, over the ridge come Dirty Don and Dusty. I remember seeing them coming, and Don giving me high fives, saying, good job, buddy. I was trying to wake Dusty up, and he was asleep. The deer ran right past us. They saw the deer. And down the hill we went, and we finally found the deer at the bottom of in the valley, in the river, essentially, or in the creek.
Actually, Dusty found it.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
You see right there, he's laying in the water.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. We were all looking for it. Dusty
I didn't think deer tracking was very hard because we started tracking it down the hill. Everybody was looking for blood. I was 8 years old. I had no idea what was going on, and I just saw a deer laying dead in the stream. It was very simple to me. So my first deer tracking experience was pretty easy.
Everybody else was a bunch of dummies.
I didn't understand what you guys were looking for.
So at this point, we got to the deer, and it was my first deer. Now looking back on it, I feel like my first deer, I probably should have gutted it, but I didn't. Dirty Don gutted the deer for me, and he and my father drug it up that ridge to a trail that they knew was there in the woods because they hunted Greenridge for many years and have walked many miles through those woods. They knew that this trail was there. And they decided, we were a long ways from camp. This was well before a time when any of us had four-wheelers.
At least a mile or a mile and a quarter.
Yeah, miles from camp. We didn't have four-wheelers at the time, and we didn't have a truck with us, So they said, well, look, let's just pull this deer up, hang it up in this tree here in the middle of the woods, and we'll leave it here for the evening. And then in the morning, we'll bring the truck down and get closer to it, and we'll hook up.
Hardest thing he ever did in his life.
Bingo. So now that I am older and understand more things about the outdoors and the woods and deer hunting and whatnot, it's a completely reasonable thing to do. But at the time, it was the worst idea I'd ever heard in my life. I was like, there's no way we're going to leave my deer in the middle of the woods hanging from a tree. I'm thinking, someone's going to find it and take it, which no one was going to.
Sure,
yeah.
It's getting dark.
Yeah.
This deer is up there where nothing can get to it. We're hanging it up.
It took some major convincing to get me to be even remotely okay with that idea. I was like, I just couldn't fathom leaving that deer in the middle of the woods and us just walking away, you know. I mean, the deer was gutted. It was clean. We were hanging it. It was up off the ground.
But
I didn't want it.
We were a little older, and our tongues was dragging from taking this from the bottom of the mountain to the top.
And it was many more ridges and valleys before we got back to camp. So I don't blame you at all now, looking back on it. I think it seems like a very reasonable and acceptable thing to do. But I gotta be honest with you. At the time,
I understood.
I thought it sucked at the time. I was like, this is a horrible idea. But sure enough, they assured me it would be fine, and it was. The deer was right there where we left it. The next morning, we went and got it.
Tarp World works out.
That's right, yeah. Our camping spot that we called Tarp World. We had all the tarps up. It was good to go. And we got the deer, and it was just a little 4-point buck. You know, nothing super special rack-wise. It was super, and it was special to me. And to this day, I still have the 30-30 casing that I shot that deer with. Sits on my shelf in my basement.
Don't you still have horns too?
Yeah, they're in Dad's. They were in Dad's shed, but then he moved here to West Virginia. I don't
we
know
might have to search.
Yeah,
for them,
they might be here
Cory.
somewhere. I don't know. I'm not sure. To be honest
if
with you,
he got rid of them, I will tell you about this.
I don't think he would have got rid of them. But I don't know.
Not.
I couldn't tell you where they are.
We
but I do have the shell casing to this day. I kept it, and I won't get rid of it. I mean, I still have the 30-30 shell casing. I shot. It was my dad's gun, 30-30 rifle. He killed a bunch of deer with it. I killed my first deer with it, and it was
it's
certainly something.
4-power scope on it. It's
4-power set scope.
Angle.
Yeah, 4-power set scope. Yep, and it's certainly something I won't forget. But everybody remembers the first deer. Steve, why don't you jump in and give us your first? We were talking the other night. Steve and I realized we didn't know it at the time.
Well, he's gay.
All of a sudden,
Only thing I've been with me.
He's already got one.
That wasn't the direction I was going with that. No, Steve and I had very similar, I guess you would say, histories as far as that goes. I mean, we killed our deer the same year, well before we ever knew each other. Steve and I are very good friends, but we didn't meet until our senior year of high school, which was about 2002. But he also killed his first deer in 96.
Yes, and it was a good, memorable time. I guess when it started off, it all started, I want to say, it was in 96, but my first year I actually did deer hunt was in 95. And the first deer hunt I ever went on, I have an older brother, he's 18 months older than I am, and my father took us hunting, so you're trying to fit 3 people in one tree stand, which is not a good deal.
Yeah.
Especially when you're two young kids, 11, 12 years old, trying to sit in a tree stand. Ain't none of us can sit still for
Doesn't
nothing.
matter if there's only one of you.
Yeah.
You're not going to want to sit still.
No, you're not going to want to sit still. And my first deer hunt with my father and my brother.
Hold on, time out. You don't sit still now, and you're 30 years old.
30
So
years
I
old.
know
I
you didn't
still don't
sit
sit
still when
still.
you're. Some bitch. We're goose hunting. He's like, hey, let's walk over there. I'm like, we're goose hunting. Where are we gonna walk? He wants, yeah.
And I mean, most memorable part for I have that first tree stand hunt, my brother and my father. This tree stand my father and I built was in 2 trees. It was nothing but a ladder going up the tree it was nothing built out of but 2x4s, but it was big enough to fit all 3 of us in there. And the thing I remember the most is my father telling me, you got to sit still. Because I'm sitting up there as a young kid, swinging my legs and going back and forth. And you got to sit still. I mean, 11, 12 years old, you can't sit still for nothing. I mean, I still can't sit still enough for now. But
Right.
we were sitting there for a while, and a spike had come in. And I don't know why my father told me, or he told me before my brother. He said, there's a deer. Get on that deer.
So you and your brother were hunting
With
the
my
same
father,
time.
yeah, in the same
Both
tree
of
stand.
you's trying to get your first deer.
Yeah.
So what was the plan if you had one deer came in?
The plan, I don't know why it was, but my father told me that there's a deer. You shoot it.
So there was no plan, but
There
he
was
told
no
you.
plan.
So
he told
that's
me
what
to
it
shoot it
was.
first. Yeah.
So your brother Dave, it was like he drew the short straw on that.
Right,
deal, huh?
he was the older brother. I guess he drew the short straw. Well, I seen the deer, but I could not find, for the life of me, I could not find it in the scope. It was only 25, 30 yards away, but I couldn't find it in the scope because it was a thicker brush area. I couldn't find it. So that deer walked that day. I mean, I never killed my first deer on that day. That was in 95. But you want to get to your story of killing my first deer. I killed my first deer it was December of 96. Back then, we didn't have cell phones like we have now. Everybody calls each other and this and that. They put me in a tree stand where I had another property. We hunt 1,000 yards of 1,000 acres actually, 1,000 acres of property that we hunt. Mm-hmm. And a guy had been seeing deer at this same stand all the time.
Where was this property at?
Somerset County.
Okay.
Actually, it's the same property I still hunt to this day. I don't hunt that stand anymore.
You know it. That's where
that's where
cousin hunts.
Yeah.
Jeff.
Jeff,
Stan. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Same property.
It's off of Durst Road.
Dublin
Road.
Dublin Road.
Yes.
Yeah. Same property. We get up in there. They put me in a tree stand. 96, and the day prior to that, I think it was on a Friday. I don't know if my father took me out of school or what it was, but we hunted that stand. He put me in that stand the day prior, and I've seen the biggest deer that I've ever seen in the woods that Friday before I killed my first deer that I could not get a shot on. Because the stand I was hunting...
Still to this day, it's the biggest deer you've ever seen?
Still to this day, it was the biggest deer I've ever seen in the woods.
So you peaked at an early age?
Yes.
Just like
you say that about a lot of
just
things.
like you peaking in high school when you hit that ball over the fence on that.
Yeah. Look, that's a whole different topic for a podcast. One day I'll tell you about the home run I hit in high school.
It was short, but he hit it.
No, that was a poke. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, Friday. I'm pretty sure it was a Friday night. I hunted that stand. They put me in this stand. We all had walkie-talkies back then, and the stand I was hunting was surrounded by. It was probably 100, maybe 100 yards wide by 300 yards wide of nothing but oak trees that had been surrounded by clear cut. They had just logged a few years before, so it was all nothing growing up in pine thickets. So I'm sitting in the stand. But prior to this, my father said, the first deer you kill, if it's a buck, we'll get it mounted. Doesn't matter how big it is,
Doesn't matter what it was.
Is.
So you had
we'll get it mounted. It was in the back of my mind.
Right.
So this Friday, that night we were hunting, this deer comes in, and I can see him. He's massive. I mean, like I said, it's the biggest deer I've ever seen in the woods. But the only thing he gives me is his head. It's the only thing I could see was his head and his rack just sticking out in the woods. But he had 2 does with him. The does are running all around in the oak trees that I'm sitting in 10, 15 yards away. But he will not come out of that pine thicket. I got the scope on his head and this and that. And me being a young hunter, I don't know any different. You can shoot him in the neck. You can shoot this. Mm-hmm. You always taught from a young age to shoot him in the vitals.
They go to the engine room. Right.
Shoot him right behind the shoulder.
Right.
So that night, I didn't kill a deer. I watched that deer for a half hour, 45 minutes, and thinking, man, that's a big deer. That's a big deer. So the next...
If that same deer would have came across an older Steve Strevig...
He'd have been shot in the head.
He wouldn't have still been living.
He wouldn't still be alive.
You showed more restraint and patience as a young man that knowing you today.
You live and you learn, but
yeah. I mean, you'd have killed him one way or the other.
Yeah, I'd have find a way.
He would have shot,
right.
Whether he killed him or not.
Yeah.
I come back to deer camp that night and say, well, I seen a monster buck, and the only thing he gave me was a head or a neck shot, and
why didn't you shoot?
Why did my father and every other hunter?
I understand.
Why didn't you shoot? Because I didn't have a decent shot.
Didn't have a good center mass shot.
Right, center mass shot. Because that's what I've always been taught, to shoot right behind the shoulder.
Sure.
So they said, well, you can always shoot him in the neck or something else. Well, the next Saturday night, I'm sitting in the same tree stand again. And in Maryland, we can bait for deer. So we had a corn pile out. And it wasn't right before dark. A little 4-pointer walked out right into the corn pile, and the only thing I could see again was his neck, head in his neck. So I gave it old 30-30 Marlin right to the neck, and that's all it took. Dropped that deer in his tracks.
So you killed your first deer in 1996 with a 30-30 Marlin.
30-30 Marlin. I still got it to this day.
And
probably more deer has been killed in the U.S. or anywhere with a 30-30.
I won't.
I killed many a deer.
Nobody, I don't think anybody argue that.
Just like my father's promise, that deer is hanging on my wall in my basement.
He got it mounted?
They got it mounted.
Wow.
It's in the basement.
What was the size of it?
It's just a little 4-pointer.
Little 4-point buck.
But I can still picture it in my mind.
This is
of
sort
that
of
deer
typical.
coming out of that pine thicket.
Cory has a 4-point.
I was going to
Steve
say,
has a 4-point.
killed a 4-point with a 30-30 and 96. I mean, did we just become best friends? Yeah.
We can all get along.
I mean, that's good shit. That's definitely good shit. Dusty,
Yes, sir. Okay.
talk about it.
My first deer kill was, I would say, roughly 98. A little bit younger than you, but I think we were relatively around the same age. I was 11 or 12 years old when I shot my first deer. And it was in Worcester County on the eastern shore of Maryland, right outside of Snow Hill. So,
Why is he representing? Tim, you have no legacy towards the Eastern Shore.
Where I live.
Oh,
yeah, now he does.
I forgot he lives over there now.
Now he's happy. Now he's happy we're talking about the Eastern Shore.
Outhouse of Maryland. He's got to say something.
The Eastern Shore. Yeah, he lives on Kent Island, like the most citified.
My brother Donald Schaefer will tell you that.
Yeah.
So, mine's relatively simple. We were hunting. Well, I guess I can start with scouting. We walked all around the woods down there. It was a relatively new property we were leasing, and we found the biggest rub I've still to this date seen. So we decided, and there were scrapes and all around it, so we decided to hang a stand right in that general area. My dad hung me a stand because I was young. About 20...
Hold on, this wasn't the property that we hunted for. That property?
Yeah.
That's where you killed your first year?
Right,
I didn't know that.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So your first year, was it
But we camped on the other side.
Yeah.
So it was a mile.
Yeah, it was like a mile walk back into
So
the
did you
woods.
kill your first year before we moved over to the good side?
Yes.
Okay.
We still were camping in sticker bushes at that point.
Yeah,
before
we had the
moved
shit camp spot before we moved to the good. Yeah, I got you. Okay.
Sticker bush.
Bush camp, right.
So I'd been hunting for a few years now, because I've yet to shoot at a deer. I've seen a couple deer while I was hunting, but nothing was within range. And if it was within range, it wasn't a legal size. So my dad decided I'd been hunting long enough to sit in my own tree stand. I'm 11 or 12 years old, and he hangs up. It seemed like an 8x8 tree stand, inches I'm talking about, because I remember that being the smallest tree stand in the world. I mean, if I'm being realistic, it's probably 20 by something, but
20 by 28 or so.
it was a pretty small tree stand.
Was it like a lock-on or something?
It was a lock-on.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a lock-on tree stand with, I don't even know what kind of steps we put in that. I can't remember.
I had them.
The ones you
hang-ons,
drilled in? Yeah.
Drills and,
Okay.
stands
And my dad's stand, he put a bigger stand, nicer stand up about 25 yards away so he could see me and watch me, make sure I wasn't doing anything crazy. But this was my first opening day, so I remember being extremely excited.
When I put him up the tree now, I want to tell you, I did have a safety harness on him.
Oh, yeah.
And
We were being as safe
because when
as
I
possible.
put that we found a turkey feather as we were going down, and in his camouflage hat, I put the turkey feather in there.
Yeah.
Well, this was just a few minutes after daylight. I thought he was going to fly out of the tree. This turkey feather was operating where he could fly.
I mean, as Steve said, you're 11, 12 years old. You're not going to be sitting still in a tree stand for hours upon hours.
Yeah.
I must have been moving around a little bit. But I guess we found the feather that morning when we walked in because we had a mile or better to walk. I mean, it was a hike because Cory and his father were hunting about halfway in, I would imagine. Maybe a little bit further than halfway.
I barely even remember hunting on that side of that property. I remember hunting on the other side of the property. See you, Rod.
All right.
Take it easy, buddy. I remember hunting on the other side of the property way more, I guess because we did it for so many more years. You know what I mean? But that first year when we were on the shitty side, I guess you call it, whatever, we were camping in the thorn bushes. I don't really have I don't know why, I just don't have a real good recollection of hunting over there because we didn't do it for much, and the rest of what we did was hunting on the other side where we found the great place to camp, and we killed a shit ton of deer for years. I mean, we killed deer over there nonstop. So I don't really remember. I didn't even realize that was where you killed your first deer. Like to this day, like I didn't know that till you just said that. Like that was where you killed your first deer.
Yep.
It was pretty early. I mean, daylight just broke, and we was probably there a little bit before 7. By 8 o'clock, I think this was happening.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it was absolutely within a half hour of good light. It happened pretty fast, and it was my first opening day, so I was extremely excited. So I'm looking around, and we were hunting in Maryland, so we could bait. We had thrown corn out a couple days earlier, so there's squirrels just going crazy. So I'm looking everywhere at every single noise because this is the first time I'm probably hunting in a stand by myself.
And even when you're older, but especially when you're that age, every animal that steps foot on the ground sounds like a deer.
Absolutely.
Every animal that steps a foot on the ground sounds like a deer, and everywhere you're looking, there's supposed to be a deer coming, but it's usually not the case. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm going crazy, just looking all over because there's noises everywhere in the woods. And then I see something flicker off to my left about 30 yards, and on the eastern shore of Maryland, everything's a thicket. So you're hunting in a thicket, you're not going to get a far shot unless you're on like a logging road or something. So I see something flicker, so it has my attention. I'm staring. It seems like forever. And then it actually starts to walk, and it was a deer. And it walked till about 15 yards in front of me, and it stopped with its head behind a tree. So pow, let it have it. And it was a big doe, and it went crashing off into the woods and further into the thicket. So by that time, I'm so excited. I'm shaking like a leaf, absolutely shaking. I'm trying to see my dad in the tree. He's got camo on. I can barely see him. And then I hear some more noises. I look over, and here's another deer come walking by. So at this time, I'm extremely excited, shaking. I got the gun up, and I pull the trigger again. Boom! It keeps on running on. Boom! Shoot it again. And this time, it's still walking through the woods. Shoot it again for a third time. And I knew I had 5 bullets in my gun, but I was out of bullets.
First of all, you are notorious, by the way, as a kid, and to this day, even as an adult, for just burning up ammunition.
My ammunition.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Dirty Don's ammunition. Yeah, Don brings you guns, you grab the gun, you go hunting, you shoot the bullets up, and you're like, "Hey, Dad, I need some more bullets."
Hey, it's kind of like your 4-wheeler with gas. They just keep magically appearing.
You just leave it here.
I thought the guns come stocked with bullets. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what Dad with me in the 4-wheeler and fuel. He said, "You ever buy fuel?" I was like, "You got to put fuel in these things." Didn't realize that.
Continue with this little story here, though, about the deer hunt.
So the second deer finally falls, and then at this point I'm beyond excited.
Hold on, you killed 2 in the same day?
Yeah.
Your first deer was 2?
My first hunt where I killed the deer, 2 deer fell in front of me.
Wow.
So then I'm shaking like a leaf, and another one comes walking up. And at this point, I have tremors. I'm so excited. I can't. I put the gun up, pull the trigger, and it just clicks. I don't know what happened to my other shell.
I bet that tree stand was feeling real small when you got that shakes going.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's hugging the tree for dear life. So
then when Dad howers across,
he's
Dusty, shooting. I'm looking for bullets.
At this point,
okay, imagine this.
Yeah.
So I had randomly ejected an extra shell at some point because it was my first year. I was extremely excited. So I'm trying to open up my backpack, but I can't get it open because my shakes are too bad that I can't actually grab the zipper. I can see it, but I can't grab it. I'm shaking so bad, and I yell back, I can't find more bullets. And then boom, he shoots, and the third one falls. So as exciting as it was for me, a non-hunter would think it's sad because we murdered a whole family, the mother and 2 fawns. But at that time, it was a deer walking in front of me, my first deer. I was extremely excited.
I wasn't sure. I couldn't see the deer go down either. So
you thought it was
wandering around.
You thought maybe it was the same deer I've been shooting all along.
The same deer.
You didn't know that we were laying out the whole family.
You were putting it down. Well,
I thought I would help the cause here.
It don't matter what opinions are. Everything was legal. You all killed your deer, and
absolutely,
and I guarantee you, they got 8. And they got 8 in a hurry, I'll bet.
Yeah. But the real interesting part was when we tried to drag them out, because me being 11 or 12 years old, I was struggling dragging one of the fawns out, and we had 3 deer a mile back in the woods. So luckily, even though you don't even remember this too much, you and your father came and met us, and we were probably only a couple 100 yards down the road with these deer, because I think my dad was dragging the mother and a fawn, and I was dragging 1 fawn.
Well, before we get to that, when he shot the deer, I really seen deer, but I didn't realize he shot the doe, and she run off. So when I got there, the 2 fawns.
OFT.
That's it.
RUNNOFT. Run off.
When I got there, and he said, well, I shot one and it ran. So when we went, we followed the blood there, and it was a very big doe. Actually, it was a really
It's
good
probably to this day
doe.
the biggest doe I've ever killed.
Right. And,
bitch, huh?
you know, at his age, I said, Dusty, cool.
Good job,
Look
man.
here, man.
Yeah.
You got this. So then the work started. You got 3 of them.
Yeah,
got.
That's a shit ton of work, too, man.
You got a little bit of gut to do.
Like I said, with them, I put 2 of them on it. I was a little younger back then, too, now. This is back then.
You had a little bit more hitch in your giddy up at that point in time, yeah.
Yes. So, you know, I would drag one 100 yards, go back, get another one, drag it. And then with the trail, it has logs on it. One was 4 foot tall. We had to get that thing over top of it. Oh, and like I said, we drug these deer, and and then when your father Jay came along, and it was a lot nicer then.
Because I remember you took the one I had. Jay took one of the ones my dad was dragging, and it made it a lot easier. We definitely made up some ground then.
I don't really.
But I mean, it was a 3-hour drag.
See, that's what's crazy. Like, I
remember
remember the specific details of my first deer, but you're telling this story of your first deer, and I was there. But I don't really have that. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't resonate as much. You know what I mean? It like doesn't stick with me.
Yeah.
Like, when I killed my deer, though, do you remember like all that shit?
I remember. Yeah, well, I don't remember seeing your deer prior to you shooting it because I was asleep. But yes, I remember dragging it out because that was my first deer kill experience. Even though I didn't kill it,
right?
it
But
was
you were the first time you were on a hunt where somebody killed a deer.
Absolutely,
Yeah, okay.
And I'd been hunting for a couple years, but I only go once or twice a year.
When the shot went, I said, "Well, your buddy shot,
right?
And I hope he hit him. So let's head that way, Dust." And
I remember you saying that. I always remember you saying that when I shot that deer, you guys were over the other ridge and you woke him up. You said, "Come on, Dusty, your buddy just shot. Let's go see what he got." I remember you saying
that's exactly what he said.
And like I said, we were following blood, and Dusty, it's easy. Look, the deer's right down there,
100 yards away, laying in a stream.
100 yards away, laying in a little stream down at the bottom of this hill. But we're concentrating.
We're looking spot by spot for the next 5 feet.
I never thought of looking.
You're not looking out, right? You're not looking out, Dusty.
Can't you guys see it?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was my first experience with my first deer kill, but that also, I guess, raised awareness within myself of how much work deer hunting is, because I saw I was only 11 or 12, so I wasn't even, like you said, I probably should have gutted my first deer. I'm sure I got a little bloody, but I didn't gut my first deer. My dad gutted all 3 of them. He drugged 2 of them. I was struggling dragging the smallest one, and that's when I realized, like, deer hunting isn't all just fun and games.
You remember
There's
the
a lot
gun
of
you
work.
used to kill these deer with?
Yeah, I remember it. Was it a Winchester? Because it was a
Winchester,
it was a smooth,
120.
It was a
12
smooth
gauge
bore
shotgun.
Yeah, smooth bore barrel.
Right. Remington sluggers.
Yep.
You kill with a slug gun?
Even my first buck
Smooth
I killed.
bore.
I killed my first buck in that clear cut. The first deer I killed in the clear
That
cut,
was
you spoke
70
about.
some yards away.
75 yards. Freehand with Remington sluggers and off a smooth bored shotgun.
No shit.
That was the best shot I ever made.
Yeah, that's a poke. That's a hell of a shot. Hell of a shot.
So that's all I have.
Hey everyone, thanks for hanging out with us here on the Hunters Hangout podcast. We have to take a quick break to show some love to one of our sponsors. We highly recommend that you go to Amazon.com and search Sam's Creek Forest Products. That's SAMS Creek Forest Products for the highest quality of full surround fireplace mantles and floating shelves. These mantles and shelves are all made in the USA using domestically grown hardwoods. Sam's Creek Forest Products are handmade by the Pennsylvania Amish, and the craftsmanship matches what folks have come to expect from Amish woodworking. These mantles and shelves look great in any home or cabin and will be the perfect centerpiece for your home living space. Enter HHPOD to receive 10% off your next purchase. That's HHPOD for 10% off. Dirty Don, I want to hear about... How old are you? Dirty Don, how old are you?
63 and a half.
63 and a half.
It's like he's 2 years old. He still goes by months.
I'm 784 months old. I didn't realize. Gotta be honest with you. I didn't realize that when you get to 63, you still call halves.
Yeah.
I figured at that point in the game,
Well,
I figured you'd say piss on it. I'm 64.
I try to my golden years.
Okay,
What's gold on is pee.
Yeah, I got you. All right, so you're 63 and a half.
Yeah.
At what age did you kill your first deer? You've been deer hunting a long time.
Well, I guess the one I really remember, and I would say, let's say my first buck.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was in Tappahanak, Virginia, and on the Rappahanak.
That's a tongue twister.
And we hunted them with dogs down there.
Oh yeah, well they still do in Virginia.
Yes.
They still hunt. They run dogs on deer in a lot of Virginia. Yeah,
and
that's a big deal down there.
This here was a pretty good afternoon. A friend of mine, Scott,
you killed your first one on dogs then?
Yes.
Oh no shit.
Okay,
cool.
And you can use buckshot.
Yeah. Yep. I got you.
So this is what we were using, and my friend Scott and his dad Redmond. Took me down there, and I was probably about, I guess, 16. And but this is what comes back to me. You know what I mean? It probably. We were riding down the road, and trucks coming by. They stopped us and says, "Our dogs has been on this deer all day long. And would you give us a hand, because there's only a few of us here, and help us kill the deer?" And my first thought is, yeah, that's me. I'm ready.
Yeah, right.
So we turned around and went back.
So
and
you all weren't even in the hunt. It was just this guy said, "I got some dogs chasing a deer. Can you help me out?" Or were you guys already hunting deer?
We were already hunting deer.
Okay.
And our dogs went off somewhere else.
I see, yeah.
What it is, once a dog gets on a deer, and
I got two.
You know, we all had 4-wheel drive trucks.
30 down. I got 2 coon hounds. Trust me, I understand. I know how it works.
Until you stop them.
Yeah.
This was back really before they had 4-wheelers, 3-wheelers, and that stuff. So, I mean, we had big tires on the truck.
We were big pickup trucks.
We tore the hell out of them going through the swamps
That had to be
down
fun.
there and that.
Yeah.
And But when they said this here, and this was probably the first or second time I was ever down there hunting with dogs, which I'm from Pennsylvania.
Right.
And up there,
And they don't, you
it
can't
was
run
buck only in Pennsylvania.
one buck.
One buck per year.
And it's been that way for a long time up there. Is it still that way?
No, it has changed through the last 8 years or so. But
certainly no dogs.
No.
Yeah, right.
Certainly
not
dogs.
in Pennsylvania, right.
If they see a deer in Pennsylvania, or I mean a dog chasing a deer, he liable to go to Never Never.
I was going to say the dog ends up getting shot, not the deer. Right. Right. Exactly.
But, this year it just happened that Redmond dropped Scott off, said, "You stay here." Because the deer traveled right there. So he knew, they've hunted it for 30 years or so.
They knew where the deer would come through, right?
And then Redmond went down to where he thought the deer was going to be. Well, he told me to get out of the truck. Well, when I slammed the door, the first thing I said, "You never slam the door. The deer knows."
Yeah, right.
Oh, my God. The first thing I did was mess up.
Right.
And the man who has me hunting there, I felt, okay, I'll never come back again. I'd messed up. And Redmond, he was pretty stern.
Yeah.
Intimidating figure.
Good whiskey drinker.
This was Scott's father? Scott died?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I bet he probably put some whiskey away.
And he was he worked in a beer truck, and it was Miller beer truck. And so when we was kids, we'd sneak a food from him.
Oh yeah, sneaky a drink. Yeah, I don't blame
that was the way it went down.
Yeah,
but so I went on down, and you can hear the dogs. They're getting closer and closer.
They're pushing the deer towards you.
Oh yeah, he's coming on. But I mean, there was quite a few 100 yards away, but every bark is getting closer.
Yeah.
So when
I bet you were getting fired up, weren't you? Like every time, like you could,
hair in the back of your neck, stand right up.
Yep.
And you was there, and it was so thick in there that you could hardly see anything at 20 yards at least. Even might have been less.
Yeah.
But I can hear this. The dogs are a couple 300 yards away, but I hear the.
You heard the deer in front of the dogs.
Here comes this 7-point buck.
No shit, 7-pointer.
He runs right down there, and I can see his head and that. Well, I got triple aught buckshot. The back end of 2 3/4. They didn't have 3 inch.
Yeah. What's the range? Like I've never obviously I'm very aware of buckshot and the triple aught buck and double aught buck. Like I understand all, but like legitimately, if you're hunting with that load out of a shotgun, what's an acceptable range? I don't have a clue because I've never used it. I've always shot. If I'm hunting a shotgun deer, which is extremely rare, I've only done it a few times. It's a rifled slug, and I know what I can do with that. But when you're talking triple aught buck, I mean, what kind of range are you talking about there? How far, if you had to, how far could you? That would be lethal. That's a good kill shot. You know what I mean? 60
to 70 yards.
Oh, okay. Really? That's further.
30,
I didn't think.
It's a 30 caliber round in triple aught buckshot.
Oh no shit!
So you got 9 of them coming out of there.
I didn't realize
930 calibers flying at it.
Right.
Yeah, I'd say that'd be lethal.
Now you got woods.
Your accuracy is not the same.
Let me finish my first buck that I killed there, and then I'll tell you about another one that it was running by. And that's why I knew you can kill these here through the woods. And it may not happen every time. But anyway, this buck come out there, and I could see his head and his horns. But it's so thick there, but he's only 25 yards away. Well, I figured if you get down here, it's got to be right about there. When I pulled the trigger, this deer jumped straight in the air. And it went 6 feet in the air. Well, he got the second load then. I was excited. And then the next thing I know, here come the dogs. Well, I got
how
7
far behind
dogs.
do you think the dogs were behind the deer? I mean, were they...
Probably then about when I shot it, and because it knew something was there, right? Or it smelled me or whatever. But the dogs were...
The deer did.
The deer knew that I was there.
Which I'm surprised, like a deer being chased by a bunch of hounds like that, you would think that his senses might be a little screwed up. Wouldn't be nearly concerned about all the rest of his surroundings. He'd be just concerned about...
No, it stopped right there.
But
And I mean, we were eyeball to eyeball and at 25 yards.
Right.
It isn't...
I mean, that just goes to show you how...
So he's thinking, dogs here, he's here.
Dogs here, redneck there. What do I mean? Yeah.
And with the buckshot, anyway, the deer fell over.
You laid him out.
Here, I never hunted. I'm from Pennsylvania.
Right.
I don't know nothing about hunting with dogs.
Right, first one, right.
First one
Right.
down there.
Yeah.
I got 7 dogs attacking my deer.
I was going to say...
I'm standing on top of the deer, kicking the
Get
dog.
away, dog.
Get the hell away from
That's what I was going to
deer.
say. What do the dogs do once they catch it? Because they're still in game mode. You know what I mean?
Right.
Same way with
And
my coon dogs.
right.
I mean, we coon hunt, and I got coon dogs. We get a coon. You roll that coon out of the tree. Well, that coon dog's jumping on top of that coon. You know what I mean?
Well, he's going to have... Well, that's what he's supposed to do.
It could be deader than a
But see,
doornail.
I
He
did
don't
not
care.
know this.
But right. But so for deer dogs, so you're trying to get these dogs off your deer. Yeah, that I can see that being an issue.
So here comes Redmond and Scotty, and then the people that own the dogs come on up, and where's your hunting license? Okay,
Yeah.
they're right here in my wallet. Okay. Well, I went through the wallet 3 times. Then I found my hunting license.
Yeah.
But back in, just like you guys, it was the first thing.
Sure.
And I never
freaking
killed a
out.
buck
Yeah,
before.
right.
You're excited.
And I was excited.
No kid, I didn't realize your first one was over dogs. Like that's cool.
Oh,
I've never
it was
hunted.
neat.
I've never hunted deer behind dogs or in front of dogs. I guess you'd say because they're chasing them. But I certainly would. I mean, I'm
very.
It's a different. It's a hell of a way to do it. And you know what's weird is there's only select few parts of the country anymore that you can even do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
They don't even allow you to do it. Virginia's one spot that still has it available, and the boys down there that run coon dogs. Well, they run it. They call it they're deer dogs, but essentially it's a coonhound breed.
I was from Pennsylvania, so we had to wear orange
Right.
up there.
Right.
Well, Virginia, at the time, you didn't have to wear orange. Well,
No shit.
no.
Really?
You'd be camoed. But the thing is, you're out there with buckshot, and I did change something down there. We all put orange hats on because,
I feel like
I was out in the woods, and I would be standing there on a road and that, and 40 or 50 yards away, after the dogs went by, one of the guys that I was hunting with would stand up and walk out in the road. And
you didn't know he was there.
I had no damn idea he was there.
Yeah, that ain't no good.
And
right.
I said, in Pennsylvania we do this. Well, we're northern.
Right.
They didn't like me anyway.
You were on the wrong side.
I was on the wrong side of the
Mason-Dixon line. You were some bitch in their opinion. Yeah.
But after that, we had to put some orange on, a hat or something.
Yeah.
Because I said, with buckshot too,
Yeah.
it spreads
well,
out.
that style of hunting with dogs, running deer, I got nothing against it. Have at it. But that's a dangerous. I say dangerous. It's a dangerous way if you don't do it the right way.
Yeah.
But you put some orange on, and then you can see where other people are. You know what's going on. Same thing when we do deer drives. I mean, everybody does deer drives.
Right.
And we layer up.
But we layer up with orange. We're on the walkie-talkies. I mean, we're
orange,
whistling at each other. I mean, like, I don't, you know.
Yeah, you got to have a vest.
Right. But when you're hunting shotguns and you're hunting deer on the move with people nearby.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't know. They didn't.
That's extreme.
So, do you think? So that was then. Is there a law now, though, in Virginia saying to?
Now I haven't hunted there in quite a few years, so I'm not sure. But I know for this particular club, I do believe they went to. You have to have
put something on,
something 100 inches of orange or something,
right? Whatever the bare minimum was. Yeah.
To get back to where you were saying about how far you can kill a deer. With
shot, buckshot, yeah.
And it was triple white buckshot. One day, they set me off on a trail, and there was probably 40 to 50 yards of woods, and then there was a power line, just telephone poles in it.
Mm-hmm.
And well, as I was there, this deer ran down. I seen it had horns and that. It run down, and there was a field. There was a couple guys out on the field where the dogs was coming. Well, the deer seen the dogs. Well, I mean the guys in the field, right? So the deer turned around and came through that light line again, heading back the other way, back towards me.
Yeah.
And it had to be 50 yards, I would say, at least.
Mm-hmm.
When it came through there, I had triple watt buckshot, 3-inch magnums at the time, and there's 9 of them in 30 caliber slugs.
Yeah. I didn't realize they were that big.
As it was running full out, I picked a little spot. When it came through, I said, pow. And I hear somebody say, did you get him? I don't know. Let me go out here and see. As I'm going through the woods, I see in these trees, there's holes in the trees. Well, when I got to the power line, there's another 7-point laying there. I can see his horns up above the grass.
Oh, that's always a good feeling.
And it was just one of them. So I went back to where I was on the road. I could see my scuff spot.
Yeah.
And 2 pellets went through the woods. I hit the deer right in the neck with one of them pellets. Killed him dead on the spot. He just slid.
Got him with 1 pellet out
of the 9 pellets, 8 of them. Well, no, I seen 7 of them in the trees.
Yeah.
Around there, 2 of them, and I don't know where the other one went.
No shit.
So that's probably max.
Yeah.
Kill radius is probably 50 yards.
Yeah.
If you said that was at least 50 yards, you're not going to want to shoot. If 1 bullet makes it through there, you'd want.
Out in the field, it may be different, but 50 yards with this
here, the spread,
and it's 1,400 feet a second.
Yeah.
So
they're cruising as long as it hits them with 1.
But I mean, it just happened.
I've never hunted. Have you ever hunted with a buckshot?
No, I haven't.
I've never hunted with buckshot.
I've got a bunch of boxes of them.
I've killed deer with my shotgun. I've killed deer with my shotgun, but I've always used slugs.
Cory, me and your dad was down at that property, and Russell. We had that property down there on Butt Neck Road by Blackwater Refuge.
Yeah, I remember that.
And we were putting on a drive.
Yeah.
With sick deer. And we were going through, and we were howling a little bit, trying to put a drive on to chase the deer. Well, your dad was, it's so thick.
Mm-hmm.
We wasn't 35 yards apart or so. Well, here come a sick deer doe by me, and I hollered, Jay, where are you?
Right.
Jay. Well, he answered me and that. So when the deer went by me,
Split y'all, didn't it?
I mean, it was in between us. So
Right.
This deer wasn't 20 yards
But
from me.
you couldn't see him,
I
and he
hit
couldn't
it
see you.
with triple aught buckshot right in its heart.
Right.
And that deer never quivered. A sick deer is one.
Oh, well, sick of deer is a tough animal, yeah.
And it run away, and I happened to have some number 4s with it. So I peppered him in the ass on the way, or her. And thank you. It was...
Yeah, I never hunted. I don't know. I never hunted with buckshot. I mean, I know it's...
Well, there's only a few places you
counties in
can.
Maryland that you can.
Yeah,
One of them's
Dorchester
Correct me if I'm
County.
wrong, but I think
Dorchester
in Maryland,
County is the only
it's
one
like
you can
two
hunt it in.
counties.
Yeah, there's a couple counties in Maryland where they're only allowed to use buckshot. In the other counties, you cannot use buckshot.
Oh, I didn't even
Right.
realize
No,
that.
Yeah. It has to be a
Dorchester
rifle
is the only
slaughter.
county.
No,
in
well,
I
Maryland.
think there's two. There's one up north on the eastern shore, I believe. No,
Dorchester is the only
just
one.
okay.
Yes.
I believe
Well,
Dorchester is one of the ones.
If there's one county in Maryland where you would need to use that type of ammunition,
It's Dorchester.
Dorchester would be it.
It's swamp?
Because
Yeah,
it's
thick.
a
Swamp, yeah.
swampy thicket, and anybody that hunts there is crazy as shit anyway. So it's like, give them something that they got a chance at.
Is that why we hunt there?
Yeah, because y'all are crazy.
That's all
Yeah,
they
y'all
do.
are, yeah. That's
They're
Dorchester.
hunting.
Mosquitoes carry you away. The ticks eat you, and the
Mosquitoes
chiggers.
and the chiggers. We don't even get
And
into
you
that.
got to wear chest-high waders to get through the first ditch.
Yep, no doubt, no doubt.
But it's
Wow.
the elusive cicadere is why they're hunting.
The
there, though.
cicadere. That you know what? That might be a whole new
Little
topic
Japanese elk.
for another podcast.
Well, that is one of my goals for this season.
Kill yourself a cicadere.
And have you
to
ever
shoot
kill
a
one?
cicadere.
They
Does-
are delicious.
Steve killed a
I've
bunch
killed
of
two of
cicadere.
them.
Two?
My dad's killed a
Say
bunch
bunch.
too. But,
Say a
but
bunch. You killed two.
We've been leasing this property for a couple years, and I've hunted there twice. I've seen cicadere both times. I've seen deer, whitetail both times,
Yep.
but I've yet to shoot a deer on that property. So that is my goal for this season, is to shoot my first cicadere.
And that's another podcast because
I think that's another podcast. Yeah, I
one
think
of
that's
my-
another episode.
The last cicadere hunt that I had, I totaled a truck on the way home.
That's a whole new story.
Yeah,
That's a whole new story.
Yeah.
We'll leave that as a teaser.
Yeah, that's a teaser. That's a teaser for Hunters Hangout episode number 2, folks. No. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Hope people listened to it and liked it. We're gonna do this again. I don't know how often, but there will be another one at some point in time.
Oh, I have one more story.
Oh
We'll
wait,
save it for
Dirty
the next
Don's
one.
back. Got another story. Yeah, we gotta save. We'll
We gotta
save it for the next one.
next
Save your
podcast.
stories.
We got it, buddy.
There we go. There we go. We don't even have a Facebook page yet. We don't have a Twitter page. We don't have nothing. But
You ain't got shit, do you?
we don't have shit. We're a bit
Hey,
we're a
we
bit
got
unprepared.
elk
This
stories.
is our beta
We
version.
got mule deer
Episode 1 is our
stories,
beta.
antelope
Yeah, this
stories.
is beta. Yeah, like Dusty said, this is beta version. So we haven't put forth any effort other than recording audio, which we just did. I'm up here turkey hunting with my boys and my buddies right now, and then tomorrow I got a whole bunch of more friends coming into town, into Cranesville. Like I told you, we're in Cranesville, West Virginia. Coming into
Population
Cranesville, West
47.
Virginia, population of 47, to camp for the weekend. And these are a bunch of tenderfoots coming in who have no business whatsoever
I wish
camping.
we had a camera on this that there microphone because one of your tenderfoots is over there.
Yeah, one of my
sleeping on the couch.
tenderfoots is sleeping on the couch already. But point being is, there's a whole bunch of people coming into town this weekend that are tenderfoots that don't have no business whatsoever camping.
Dumb as a box of rocks.
Dumb as a box of rocks. Just don't know what they're doing. Half the fun for me, Dirty Don, Dusty, and Steve, who guys that live in the outdoors and enjoy it, is watching these idiots try and figure out how to make their way staying in a tent for a weekend.
With 6 inches of water and their
Yeah,
sleeping bags.
yeah, oh, yeah.
In the morning.
I mean, last year I had a guy call me the day of this. We have this camping trip every year, and he said to me, "Cory, what's the keeping the beer cold situation while we're there?" A cooler with ice. Okay, just wanted to check. So, I mean, this is what we're dealing with. So, anyway, thank you for listening to the Hunters Hangout podcast. We'll be back one day. Don't know when. Might be a couple weeks, might be a
sooner
month.
than later.
But if you find us, subscribe to it, and you'll get the update when there's a new one available. And we thank you for listening. This is episode 1. We're breaking ground.
God bless.
God bless.